Welcome to Friday. You made it. Another end to some fantastic online learning. Thank you for sending in your work, which has been brilliant. And I can't wait to see the work you're going to send in today. So today is the last lesson on fractions this week, lesson number 5. And we are still looking at comparing fractions. Let's make a start by minimizing me. There I am on this side. Right, today's date is the 3rd of July 2020. The LI is to compare non-unit fractions, and you'll need a pencil, some paper to write on, and a ruler to get through today's lesson. So just before we start looking at the definition of non-unit fractions, and you'll remember that we looked at this in quite some detail at the beginning of the year. Now, non-unit fractions are fractions where the numerator, the number at the top, is greater than 1. That's what we refer to as non-unit fractions. Okay, let's make a start. So here we have 3 fractions, 3/6, 4/6, and 5/6. Can you use the comparison symbols to compare these fractions? You've got these diagrams to help you. Hopefully you would have either written that 3/6 is less than 4/6, which is less than 5/6, or 5/6 is greater than 4/6, which is 5/6 is greater than 4/6, and 4/6 is greater than 3/6. And there are other ways of writing that down, but as long as you understand the value of these fractions in comparison to each other. So here's our vocabulary. You have denominator, which is off the page for some reason, numerator, fraction, a whole, and compare. So we looked at this yesterday, and I'm not going to type it all in, but just refresh your memory about what the missing numbers are. So how do we, it's about comparing fractions, how do we compare fractions? So when comparing fractions, when comparing unit fractions, we look at the denominator. The larger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. When comparing fractions with the same denominator, we look at the numerator. The larger the numerator, the larger the fraction. Well done if you remembered the missing numbers, missing words. So let's look at our first little mini task. So here you have, sets of fractions. Well, what I want you to do is circle the biggest fraction in each group. Pause the video and have a go. So in this group, the biggest fraction, if I can draw it in, would be, for some reason it's not letting me do that. The biggest fraction would be, a third. You can just tick it. So the biggest fraction in this group was a third. The biggest fraction in this group is third. Now this one's a bit of a trick one because 1/1 is not a fraction. It refers to a whole. This is the bigger one. And in this group, the biggest fraction is 1/1 because it's a whole. Now, what do you notice about the biggest fraction in those groups? Taking the third. What do you notice? What do they all have in common? I think you'll agree that in all of these, the biggest fraction has the smallest denominator, okay? Because that means the whole is divided into less pieces, so that each piece will be bigger in comparison to the other fractions. Good job. Let's practice. How can I compare these two fractions? Let's start off with comparing 3/4 with 1/4. What symbol goes in here? Here's 3/4, here's a quarter. Which is 3/4 bigger than or smaller than a quarter? I think we'll agree that 3/4 is bigger than, larger than, greater than a quarter. And now you've got 2/7 and 4/7. You've got these here. I don't think you can see them very well, but they're shaded in pink. So is 2/7 less than or greater than 4/7? 2/7 is clearly less than 4/7. Good job. So they both got the same, actually they both got the same denominator, but when you have the same denominator, you look at the numerator, and the greater numerator is the one that's a greater fraction. And now I want you to compare these 2/3 and 1/3. So 2/3 is, in fact, greater than 1/3, the small thirds. Good job. And now try this one, comparing 3/4 and 2/4. Use the diagrams to help you. And we can see here that 3/4, 1, 2, 3/4 is bigger than 2/4. Let's put our sign in, our greater than symbol. And let's see what's next. So here are a few more for you to compare, okay? So I want you to pause the video and have a go at answering all of these. So in here, 4/4 is greater than 2/4. 3/5 is greater than 2/5. I'm going to move this across now. 9/10 is also greater than 3/10, and 5/8 is less than 7/8. You got those right? Good job, on the right track. Now, Mrs. Riot is sharing cookies. Which would you prefer? Explain why. So what's sharing cookies? Would you prefer 1/5 of 25 or 3/5 of 25? Think about the diagrams you can draw to represent that. So you could perhaps draw a rectangle, two rectangles like this. Okay, like this. So the whole rectangle represents 25 cookies. We divide them into, now these are very rough, not exactly 5 equal parts. 5 equal parts. 1, 2, 3. That's 5 equal parts. We divide the bottom one into 5 equal parts. 1, 2, 3. Right, so you have 2 rectangles, okay, that are equal size. Each rectangle represents 25 cookies. So 1/5 of 25 cookies would be this, and 3/5 of 25 cookies would be this many rectangles. So it's obvious that 3/5 of the 25 cookies would give you more. So you would prefer to have 3/5 of 25. Now, using that example, would you prefer 5/6 of 36 or 1/6 of 36? Pause the video and maybe draw a diagram to help you to show and explain why you would prefer whichever option. I think most of you say that you would prefer 5/6 of 36. That would give you more, a larger share of the cookies than a small 1/6. So how can I compare these fractions? Comparing 5/6 and 6/7 and 3/4 and 3/5. So let's start with 5. How would you compare 5/6 and 6/7? You have the diagram here below to help you to answer this question. And you can see, can't you, that this represents 1/6, which means that this must represent 5/6. This represents 1/7, which means that this red bar represents 6/7. And you can see that 6/7 is ever so slightly larger than 5/6. So 5/6 are less than 6/7. Well done for those of you who were able to look at the diagram and use it to help you. Right, Danny has had an awful week this week because every day whatever he has said has been wrong. So let's see what he is saying today. He is saying that when comparing non-unit fractions with the same denominator, the bigger the numerator, the smaller the fraction. Do you agree with Danny or do you disagree with Danny? And give reasons for your answer using a full sentence. Unfortunately, Danny is wrong. So he's been wrong every single day all week. So when you have a non-unit fraction, the same denominator, the bigger the numerator, the bigger the fraction, because the parts are of the same size because you have the same denominator, but you have more of the parts. And that's what the numerator reflects. So if the numerator is larger, that means the fraction is larger also. So if you got that right and were able to explain it, well done. And for the last time this week, it is time to complete your tasks. Please don't forget to take a picture of your work and email it to me at year3@grange.harrow.sch.uk. You'll find your tasks on the Grange website under the Online Learning tab, Year 3, and today's task will be entitled Maths Task 03/07/2020. When you go into that task, you will come up with this. So task 1 is asking you to compare these two fractions, and you've got diagrams to help you. And then at the bottom of task 1, you need to fill in the missing word sentence stems. Hopefully you should know this because we've been covering it for 2 days. Task 2 says Alex is comparing fractions, and Alex says, I know that 9/12 is bigger than 3/4 because 9 is bigger than 3. Do you agree with Alex? And explain your answer. And then you have Brianna is comparing fractions, and she says, I know that 4/5 and 3/5 are the same because they both have a denominator of 5. Do you agree with Brianna and explain your answer? And finally, task 3 asks you to calculate the following and show what you're working out. So it's asking you to work out what 1/8 of 64 would be. So obviously here you put 64 divided into 8 parts and then multiply by 1. And we did fractions of amounts earlier on this year, so it's a bit of revision for you, hopefully. And task 4, so you have left and right. A tennis player carries a number of balls with them. 1/5 is the box on the left. So the box on the left has 1/5 of the balls he carried on Monday, and the box on the right has 2/3 of the balls he carried on Tuesday. How many balls did he carry in total on Monday and Tuesday? And this question is really quite challenging. I'd be really interested to see how you guys get on with that. Let's go back to the smartboard. And because it's Friday, there is no challenge, and all that left to be said is have a lovely weekend and please be safe, and I will see you next week with more work on fractions. Take care and have a good one. Bye.